Hello, dog lover. In this video, we're going to talk about what is the proper diet for dogs, why raw diet, and why should we choose raw diet as a proper diet or a normal diet for your dog. So let's get started. And also, I have a great guest today, a friend of mine, Scott J. Marshall II, aka Dog Dad, from rawfeeding101.com and his channel Dog Dad, YouTube channel Dog Dad. He's here with me today, and we're going to talk about general diet for dogs. How are you doing, Scott?
I am doing excellent. I am glad that we are meeting yet again to talk about more raw feeding stuff.
Exactly, yes. So last time we talked about why kibble wasn't the proper diet, and today we're going to talk about, in general, proper diet for dogs. Now, and I was reading an article, and I came up across these 7 things that we need to focus on when we're talking about, in general, diet, especially diet for our dogs. I'm going to break it down to 7 steps, 7 parts, and we're going to talk about each one of them when it comes to raw diet itself. Let's talk about proper nourishment and if raw diet provides that proper nourishment.
In my opinion, yes, it does. I'm sure that there's especially somebody that is involved with, one of the bigger pet food companies that have been spending lots of money on making raw diets look bad. I'm sure that they would disagree with me, but in my opinion, yes, it does. But it's not quite as, I won't say that it's hard, but it's not as cut and dry as, looking at the back of your bag of kibble and seeing, okay, for a 50-pound dog, I need to feed this many scoops. So it's not quite that simple, but in my opinion, yes, it is a form of proper nourishment, because right now in the wild today, wolves and wild canines are not hunting down bags of kibble. They are hunting down other animals like rabbits and, deer, elk, all these other things, and eating raw foods. So, I know that the human species is an extremely smart species, but are we really smart enough to argue with nature and what nature says that we're supposed to be doing? I don't think that we are. I don't think we're that smart.
Right. So we can agree that raw diet, in a way, is a proper nourishment for our dogs. So second point that I want to make is it's sustained energy production. This is something that I think, people have to understand that when you're feeding kibble, it doesn't produce healthy energy for a dog, but raw diet does. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so in my opinion, yes, feeding a diet like kibble produces very unstable and unbalanced energy levels. So basically what will happen, again, in my opinion and from my research, is you will feed a food like kibble, which has very high levels of sugar and carbohydrates, etc., and it produces these massive spikes in blood sugar and glucose in the body, all those things that produce energy for the dog to use. And then just like if you or I were to go and have this, big sugary drink, we would eventually crash. And all of a sudden we go from having massive amounts of energy to all I want to do is sit on the couch. And I don't think that the diet of kibble is any different. If you have a diet that is proper for the species, like a raw food diet for dogs, you have a much more stable, sustained levels of energy throughout the day, because the dog's body isn't taking the food that you're giving to it in the form of the kibble or whatever else and using it all up at once, turning it all into glucose, burning it off as energy, getting that sugar high, and then crashing. It is digesting protein, it's digesting fats, and it's turning that into energy and having a much more sustained level of energy throughout the day. Instead of, eating your cup of kibble, your 2 cups of kibble, having energy for an hour and a half, and then your dog is just laying on its side feeling like it has absolutely no energy in the world until later in the evening when you give it another 2 cups and then it's bouncing off the walls again.
I'm sure many dog owners experience that every day. All right, that's great. So number 3 part that I wanted to talk about is vibrant immunity. So again, we think that feeding kibble, it gives, immunity to our dogs in many ways. But again, as we explained before, it causes a lot of health issues to develop in dogs. And in general, raw diet helps dogs to develop a vibrant immunity. Can you expand on that?
Yes. So in my opinion, this is not an original opinion at all. You see this all over the place, but it really comes down to the gut, the microbiome in the gut. And the more, I guess the simplest way to put this without going all sciencey is that the more good bacteria and the more variety of good bacteria that we have inside of a dog's gut, in their microbiome, the more healthy that their immune system becomes. And when we feed foods like kibble, that doesn't happen. When we feed a species-appropriate diet like raw feeding, we are introducing things that sustain, improve, maintain, and provide an environment for that healthy bacteria to cultivate, to grow, and to live, which again just translates into a healthy immune system. When it really boils down to it, if you do anything to destroy the gut, destroy the microbiome, which is directly related to the immune system, you hurt the immune system. If you do things to promote health and promote growth of healthy bacteria and varieties of healthy bacteria in the microbiome, then you promote a healthy immune system. So it really comes down to which one of the two are you doing? Are you providing a diet that is hurting the gut and not producing a healthy environment for good bacteria? Or are you providing a healthy environment and promoting the growth of healthy bacteria and promoting that higher functioning immune system? So that's my take on it. If you have a healthy gut in your dog, you have a healthy immune system in your dog. There's obviously, exceptions to every case, but overall, a healthy gut in your dog, a healthy microbiome means a healthy functioning immune system, which leads to immunity.
Yes, exactly. That's great. Now next, let's go number 4, which is healthy body weight. I personally know that I work in our dog daycare, and I see a lot of dogs who come to our daycare, and most of them, 90% of them, are on kibble. And I see how they are. They're either too heavy or too lean.
Right.
The extremes are just very visible, actually. The lean ones are not getting enough proper nutrition anyways. And the heavy ones are just getting too much of sugar, as we were talking. Can you expand on that about raw diet?
Yeah, so what that comes from, again, in my opinion, and from my research, is that if you feed a diet like kibble that is high in sugar and, it just promotes unhealthy dogs and it puts weight on dogs. If you are able to provide a species-appropriate diet in the right amounts, because I see a lot of the time people saying, if you just feed a raw diet, your dog is going to lose weight and they're going to be healthy, which could not be farther from the truth.
Yes.
A little over a year ago, because I got so sucked into starting my YouTube channel and my oldest dog, Wolken, had an injury and all these different things combining together all at the same time, my dog Wolken got extremely overweight. And it was just one of those things where it happened slowly over time. And literally one day I looked at him and said out loud, "Buddy, you are looking a little chubby." And it hit me all at once. And I was like, okay, I need to do something to fix this. So just feeding a raw diet is not going to promote healthy weight. You still have to feed the appropriate amount. And it's not as simple as, again, the 1 or 2 scoops of kibble, like we see in the bags of kibble on the back in the instructions. But it's definitely doable to figure out. If you can provide the proper amount of a raw diet, then you can have a really healthy dog with a sustainable pet weight. There's all kinds of extremes, people out there like Ronnie from perfectlyrawsome.com that has athlete dogs that are just jacked and buffed and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger puppy because they have so much muscle.
Right.
But as far as healthy pet weight, you can provide that diet that does not have massive amounts of sugar, which all goes to promoting, stored fat, which creates fat dogs. It really just comes down to feeding a proper diet in the proper amounts with a lack of excessive sugar, combined, of course, with exercise. But I want to make the point, really drive the point home, that you can't just feed a raw diet and expect your dog to be at a healthy weight. I mean, I've been in this for 9 years, and I made mistakes for several months in a row, and my dog got overweight, but he was still eating a raw diet. So if you can figure out what the proper maintenance amount for your dog is, you can have an extremely healthy dog as far as weight is concerned. Sometimes you need to do a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of, okay, well, I'm going to start at this much, but this isn't working out. He's losing too much weight, or this isn't working out. He's gaining too much weight, and you change that accordingly.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, there is this myth as well that with a raw diet, you don't gain weight, which is the opposite, actually. My own dog, Harvey, over here, he's overweight now because he's on raw diet and he's gaining weight, and rapidly. So I'm as you say, I'm adjusting. So, as I can see that he's going over his weight, so I have to bring it down and adjust. It's not just to reduce the food, is adjust the food that we're feeding. So in general, dogs can gain weight on raw diet, and also it also helps them to have that healthy body weight that you long for. A healthy dog is not overweight, is not heavy, and is not lean either. So there's this fine line that you can actually adjust.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you can't just, having a dog that has a non-healthy functioning immune system and having a dog whose diet is 50% sugar, all those things are constantly going against your dog to have a healthy weight. The body uses raw food different than processed food. They use more of it. They lose, through pooping. They lose less of it. So you need to take that into account too. And it's also important to keep in mind that you should adjust if your dog starts losing too much weight or gaining too much weight, that you should adjust those numbers slowly. So if you are feeding 3% of their body weight and your dog starts gaining weight, don't start feeding them 1.5%. Start feeding them 2.5%, 2.5%. So make these changes slowly, because you don't want your dog to just all of a sudden feel like they're starving or they're gorging themselves. So make these changes to lose or gain weight slowly, just like you would want to do as a person. Small, sustainable changes at a time.
Exactly. Yes. All right. So let's go to number 5, which is sturdy teeth and gum. And we touched on this last time we talked about it. But in general, dogs who are on raw diet, they have better teeth. Dogs who are on kibble, they tend to have, on top of everything else, they have a lot of cavities, a lot of health issues that is related to their teeth. And also, as I said last time we touched on it, many vets in general, they recommend feeding kibble or similar to kibble things that they sell in the markets these days to, brush their teeth or things like that, which is, again, it's a big mistake, big myth that they have created. It's a marketing tactic. But in general, raw diet, because also they are chewing bone and eating bones and all the goodies, they do have a good set of teeth and healthy gums as well. Can you touch on that?
Yes, you're absolutely right. The whole feed your dog kibble so that the crunchy kibble will clean your dog's teeth is a complete myth. It doesn't make any sense. I've said this before. Rodney Habib has said this before. It makes just as much sense as eating potato chips to clean your teeth. Like it makes, and that's zero. It makes zero sense, none. But as far as dogs and a raw food diet goes, yes, it absolutely is so much better, not just for their actual physical teeth themselves, but for overall physical development. There have been times where I've been able to pick out dogs that were raw fed based on looking at their muscular structure in their upper body, because the act of naturally chewing and throwing food to one side or the other as they chew and working those muscles develops a stronger jaw, develops a stronger set of neck muscles, develops stronger shoulders. So it just overall promotes a healthier, stronger dog. And of course, it does do a much better job, or I guess I should say, it does a job at all, because kibble doesn't do any kind of a job for cleaning your dog's teeth.
Yes.
But it promotes health and all kinds of benefits when it comes to your dog's dental situation, because I see time and time again dogs that have, even at 2 years old sometimes, that are having to have teeth pulled and removed, which affects that dog for the rest of their life. That affects their play, it affects, feeding time, it affects everything, which we don't want. I have my vet tell me all the time, not all the time because we hardly ever have to go to the vet, but when we do go and they look at their teeth, they say, so your dog had their teeth cleaned, 6 months ago, right? And they're like, no. Oh, so a year ago? No. When was the last time you had it done? Never. We've never had our dog's teeth professionally cleaned. They get cleaned on a daily basis, though, when they eat their food. Mm-hmm. So, and that's not to say that wolves in the wild never have tooth decay or anything like that, because things happen. Mm-hmm. But there's anybody that's willing to honestly look at data and results, there will be no argument that dogs that eat a raw food diet that's just not grinds, because you can't feed just grinds and get those same benefits. You have to have actually whole foods like whole bones and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's no arguing the difference there. You look at a dog that has had kibble for the last 2 years, and you look at a dog that has had raw food for the last 2 years, and they are going to have, almost without any exception, as long as they're healthy dogs, they're going to be a massive difference. You're going to have a healthy mouth, and you're going to have a mouth that is probably had to been cleaned a couple of times already and is going to have to be cleaned again soon, because it's not receiving those daily benefits of self-cleaning.
As a dog trainer myself, I get a lot of requests from dog owners. They asking me can you make a video about how to clean dogs' teeth? And and the simplest video that I could make is just show them dog eating a bone, right? Raw bone, right? But people want to see how to get into the teeth and the gum and how to clean, which is, in general, it's not a natural act for a human being to go and clean dog's teeth. And for the dog, it's not natural to shove your finger or your tools in there to clean teeth. But I will do a video for those who are still on kibble because they need help. But in general, again, when it comes to teeth cleaning and caring for your dog's teeth, the best tool is raw bone. And if your dog is on raw bone and is using this tool every day, you don't need to go through brushing and cleaning their teeth and visiting the vet. And on top of that, you're reducing all the health issues related to gum disease.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I'm sure, I don't know, I don't want to assume Saro's opinion here, but I'm sure that if you have a puppy versus an adult right now and you want to do the tooth cleaning thing because you're going to feed kibble, start cleaning your puppy's teeth. Don't wait until they're a year old to start cleaning their teeth. Do it as a puppy so they get used to it as a normal thing.
Next, number 6 is balanced detoxification. So this is basically in my opinion, now I'll let you talk about it, but in my opinion, if you're feeding your dog raw diet, your dog's body is detoxifying every day automatically. Can you break this part for us?
There's lots of stuff floating around the internet, raw feeding Facebook groups, YouTube channels about, detoxification and how there's all these symptoms that happen during the dog's transition from kibble over to raw feeding. And it's all explained by, this bad thing is happening only because of detoxification. And I think that a lot of that is exaggerated, but you have a massive and good point there that if a dog is healthy, if they don't have outstanding issues, if they don't have some kind of, health problem that prevents them from doing so, some kind of, gland disorder or whatever else, if the dog is healthy, they should be detoxing all the time. And if they're not detoxing all the time, because that's what several of our organs are meant to do, our organs, dogs' organs, that's their whole purpose, is to separate toxins from everything else and get rid of them. So if you don't have a healthy dog that's doing that all the time, something's wrong. And a lot of the times, that's the diet. If you have a dog that is healthy and they're being fed a proper diet and they don't have these problems going on anymore, then they should be detoxing on a regular basis. If you have a massive change in your dog's diet, like from kibble over to raw food, yes, having a couple of bouts of diarrhea is going to be normal, and that can happen. Just like a person going from, eating nothing but processed foods and pizza and potato chips all the time to the next day, they're having a high fiber, lean meat, good, healthy, organic diet. You're probably going to spend some time on the porcelain throne on the toilet just because your body's going through such a huge change. Your dog isn't any different, but there are a lot of things like having diarrhea for extended periods of time and being constantly itchy and all kinds of things that are explained away by, oh, your dog is just detoxing, which I do not believe in at all. If your dog has a problem like excessive diarrhea, or your dog has massive itching problem or constant yeast issues, there is something else going on, and it's not just that your dog is detoxing. So just don't explain all your problems away with detoxification.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes. So the last things, cool. Number 7 is strong bones and joints. In general, raw diet, it creates a healthy body, but also it creates healthy bones and joints, especially when it comes to puppies, which they really need that source of nutrition to be growing up healthy and healthier. We are taking that away and we're feeding kibble to our puppies. Let's expand on this part, strong bones and joints.
So this is especially important it's important for all dogs, but it's especially important for puppies and for senior dogs. It's important for senior dogs because the amount of things like glucosamine that we are providing with a raw diet in a natural form with raw foods is extremely important for the seniors, because as dogs get older, their natural production of things like glucosamine starts to decrease. And a lot of the time, synthetic options are not recognized by the body or used by the dog's body as well as natural forms of glucosamine, which they can get from a lot of raw foods, from whole foods. And it's important for puppies for a plethora of reasons, but even people like AFCO that set the standards for dry foods, for kibbles, that kind of thing, recognize that puppies have a larger need for things like calcium than adult dogs, than mature dogs. And they do add in things like synthetic and altered sources of calcium, but there is some good science out there that states that we don't know whether or not the dog's body, the puppy's body, is using that calcium as well as natural forms of calcium. So even though if they do their analyzing and they do all their tests to make sure, oh, there's this much calcium in it, the puppy still might not be receiving enough calcium, because the numbers show, there's X amount of grams, milligrams, whatever it is, of this particular nutrient, in this case, calcium. Their bones are still being built. Their joints are still being built, and they need more of that incoming to properly produce them. And if we are providing these synthetic forms of calcium and other things that we don't know if the dog's body's actually using, to me, that's a danger zone. I would rather go with the sure bet. I would rather give my puppy what we know their body is using and we know that their body is recognizing, instead of throwing in synthetics and saying, okay, well, it meets the numbers, so it's good to go. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever looked into this. Maybe you should, but take a few minutes and do some Googling, because all that it takes to get a kibble brand, a new brand of kibble authorized to go onto the market, is having 8 dogs not lose, or 6 out of 8 dogs in the study not lose a certain percentage of body weight when they're being fed food. That's it.
That is a great information we covered today. And I'll have all the list in the description area. And Scott, thank you very much for being here today and talking about the raw diet and why it should be chosen as the only diet for dogs, and also it's a proper diet for dogs. And next time we're going to dive into actually a little bit deep into raw feeding 101, which you cover in your course. We're going to go a little bit deeper to introduce our viewers about raw diet in general, what involves with raw diet in the next video. And I hope you can join us then as well. And Scott, once again, thank you very much. Can you tell us where we can get more information about your channel and also your raw feeding course that you have online?
Yes, absolutely. You can find everything all together on dogdadofficial.com and rawfeeding101.com. Rawfeeding101.com is going to give you strict information about the course that you can take and actually start raw feeding, and dogdadofficial.com is going to lead you to everything else, including the course. You're going to be able to find all my social media, the Instagram, YouTube, everything else. And if you want to go directly to YouTube, just go to YouTube and type in Dog Dad. It'll be a big orange square logo that says Dog Dad. It's impossible to miss.
Exactly, yes. And I highly recommend checking out Scott's channel, YouTube channel as well. Once again, thank you very much, and we will see you next time, and where we're going to talk about the little details of raw diet. Thank you.
Raw Feeding 101.
Exactly. Thank you. See you next time, Scott.
You too.
I just wanted to let you know that my online dog training course is available now. It's where you can learn how to train your dog using play and praise reward system without the use of treat, food, aversive tools, force, or domination. To learn more, click here. If you want to watch another video of mine, click here. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, click here.